hello everybody.
Will now be recorded.
My name is Wendy Nadan. I am the lead auditor at SGP, and I probably know some of you folks on the call. Taking a look at the list of people that were signed up, there were some familiar names there. If we haven't met, then welcome to this presentation. What I'm going to do is give you an overview of the SGP process, the background, why SGP was formed and what its goals are, and what it will look like for SGP facilities. So I'm going to chat a little bit about sustainability generally and how SGP fits into the picture. Take a quick look at SGP, the Sustainable Green Printing Partnership, and then the Sustainability Management System, which is really at the heart of the SGP program. There will be time for questions at the end, so I am going to go through the information I've put together here. So if you have any questions, then by all means, I can answer those at the end of the presentation. And if we run out of time today, then you can always contact SGP or email me directly, and I'm happy to answer any and all questions that you have. So this slide that I have up here is just kind of an overview of what sustainability generally is about. It's becoming more mainstream now, and you've probably all heard more and more in the public media that sustainability is a word that crops up a lot. It's thrown around quite casually, really, but its formal meaning really is it's based on three pillars of interest, really: the planet, people, and profit. So the planet part generally is environmental piece. People part is social, so it can include your employees, your neighbors, community, and your supply chain. And then profit, because we're looking at businesses here, that businesses are not sustainable if they're not profitable. That is the reality of what a business exists for. So where those three things intersect, that is kind of the realm of sustainability. This is just one model. I mean, I've had some other people that say, you know, there's some other visual models, but this is just one of them, so that you can, just to give you an idea really of the factors that play into sustainability. So SGP was formed a number of years ago now, well over a decade ago now. I've lost track of time. It seems to speed up now. Formed specifically for the printing industry. And it was designed to be a credible system of identifying sustainable printers for consumers and the larger community. I think we've all had experience of greenwashing, where there are very vague and general claims that something is green or sustainable, but without any kind of information to justify that claim. So SGP was born to fill that gap. It is an independent organization. It's not tied to any particular association, although it is supported by the printing industry and printing industry associations. And the way that SGP works is that there is a technical committee within SGP that meets and has developed a set of written criteria, which are then used in a third-party certification audit to determine whether a printing facility meets all of those criteria and thus are eligible to be certified to the SGP program. So SGP certifies what they consider to be sustainable green printers. As I mentioned already, this is done through a third-party audit. That third-party audit are auditors who are both familiar with the printing process, generally working as consultants for other printers, although not any of the individual facilities that they would audit. They are also knowledgeable in auditing principles, and they are also familiar with the SGP certification criteria. SGP is intended to be a holistic program so that it looks at the printing process that is used. So obviously for this particular program, that is printing, but all the different types of printing, flexography, lithography, digital printing, and associated activities that would include finishing and bindery and pre-press operations, so if there happen to be plate making. So it looks at all of those processes. It also looks at the products, because as we all know, there are a myriad different products produced by printers, so it doesn't restrict what those products are. But it also includes the building and the grounds and social aspects at those printers. So SGP establishes benchmarks. So SGP is intended to be a program for printing industries that go above and beyond normal business practices. It is supposed to be for printers that have superior performance. And having said that, so then it means that printers are expected to put together a program and to invest resources into that program to improve their performance in a number of criteria. SGP, as I mentioned already, is an independent organization, and part of that is that it provides transparency and a public commitment. So what does transparency mean? SGP certified printers are listed on the SGP website, so they are available to absolutely anybody to see who they are. There is a requirement for SGP certified printers to communicate their activities and to report annually back to the organization. And part of the SGP criteria is that SGP facilities also have to share information about their sustainability program with their supply chain, with employees, and with the community, so with both internal and external stakeholders. So this is not intended to be a closed shop, a club of printers that rubber stamp each other. It's intended to be transparent and open to scrutiny. So how does that work? Well, there are a wide range of stakeholders involved in the program. So as I mentioned before, there is a technical committee for SGP, which reviews the certification criteria every, I believe it's 5 years. And that technical committee has just completed that periodic review, which resulted in a new version of the certification criteria that came into effect on January 1st, 2022. So there are a wide range of stakeholders involved in that process. And when the technical committee has developed a new criteria, that revised criteria goes out for public review. So absolutely anybody in the public can provide feedback and comments to SGP about that certification criteria. So it is open to printers, for example, give feedback on the criteria, as do suppliers. Feedback has been obtained for some NGOs and from government agencies. So it is wide open to absolutely anybody that wants to participate and has an interest in the integrity of the program. Another driving factor is that printers can become SGP certified at a reasonable cost. So it has been developed specifically for the printing industry. Excuse me. So as opposed to ISO 14001, for example, which is generic, and each individual facility with ISO 14001 has to develop its own program. A lot of that background work has been done for the printers by SGP. So it means it's very clearly targeted and focused to what the environmental aspects and the sustainability issues are for the printing industry. And there are also a lot of resources available to the printer when they develop their program. This isn't a very good graphic because the words are tiny, but I've included it in here. I tried to expand it a little bit to make it easier to see, but it's still not very good. But what this is intended to show is the process becoming SGP certified. So the very first step is to submit an application to SGP. There is an application form, and that is sent in with an application fee. And then that facility has access to those resources that I mentioned, some of the templates and the guidance documents for how to put the sustainability management system into place and the activities that are required and defined by that sustainability management system. So the facility develops and implements the elements to meet the certification criteria. How long that takes depends on the facility, how large it is, how much resources the facility puts into it, their previous experience with management systems. So some facilities can do it in a few months. Some other facilities take a year and sometimes even longer than that. It's very specific on your individual circumstances. Once you think that as a facility that you have developed and put into practice the sustainability management system, then you would enter the pre-audit, which would be a document review, and then that would be followed by an on-site audit by an independent third-party auditor that would be assigned to your facility. That audit would look for evidence that your facility has met all of the SGP criteria. If there are deficiencies, that will be documented in the report, and the facility will be expected to address those. And once all those corrective actions have been completed, then the facility will be certified to SGP, which then starts the process of maintaining the sustainability management system. And the certification is on a 2-year cycle. So once you've had your initial certification, then you'll start into that 2-year cycle of activities to maintain and to develop improvement projects to drive continuous improvement towards recertification. So what is a management system? I'll just address that for a few moments. So a management system varies depending on your organization. But generally speaking, it's a set of policies and procedures that a company will follow in order to meet certain objectives. So management systems can be developed for all kinds of things, and many of you folks are probably familiar with quality management systems or environmental management systems. Sometimes they're health and safety management systems. And what we're talking about today are sustainability management systems. They're generally very similar. If you're a very small organization and you have a management system, it might be informal because everybody knows what everybody else is doing and things are understood. But in a larger organization, there will need to be written procedures, so there's consistency across all departments and all levels in the organization. For SGP requires a management system which is documented, which is known as the Sustainability Management System. So the Sustainability Management System for SGP consists of the very first element is to develop a sustainability policy, which is issued by senior management, which contains a commitment to sustainability and to basic core principles within the program. There is a sustainability committee that is utilized to monitor and provide input into the sustainability program. The facility will then develop and implement written procedures that define how that sustainability management system will operate. And once that's done, then there are activities that we'll check to make sure those activities have been completed, that they've been completed effectively, and that they've delivered the results they were designed for. And if there are deficiencies, then corrective actions are put in place. And then following that, then senior management has a review of the management system to ask the question, how well has it worked this year? Did it deliver the results we wanted? Did we get where we thought we were going to get? And if not, what do we need to do differently next year? And this is an annual cycle that facilities go through, so that there is an annual report to SGP that captures the activities that have been completed and summarizes what's been done on the management system that year. So that SMS drives a number of best practices within each facility. So how do you know how well your facility is performing? You need to measure that, and that's what the metrics are for. So there are defined metrics within SGP, for example, your energy usage, how much waste your facility generates, how much water you use, and each of those has an impact on the environment and the sustainability of your facility. And tracking those metrics year on year, you can start to see trends. Is our waste going up or down? Is our energy use going up or down? what's happening with our carbon footprint, and you can see how your facility is performing and where you need to target your management system to drive continuous improvement with your facility. Sustainability differs from the environment in that it includes the entire supply chain. So you kind of control what your suppliers or your customers do. Your customers tell you what product they would like you to manufacture, but you can have some influence over them. You can educate them in the aspects of their choices, particularly at end of life. What happens to their product by the end user? Does it go into garbage, landfill, or is it readily recycled and can be part of the circular economy? That's part of communication with your stakeholder chain. Suppliers can help you, support you in that by developing and supplying substrates or materials or chemicals that are more amenable to the circular economy, the reduce, reuse, recycle hierarchy, for example. People need to know what they're supposed to do, so there's a training element in all of this. And then there are some more activities which are specific for printing that have direct environmental impact. So, for example, most printers use chemicals. If you're in digital printing, maybe not so much. This might not be a particularly significant area for your facility. But if you are a litho printer or a flexo printer, for example, then the chemicals that you use, some portion of those will be emitted to air, and some of those chemicals will contain VOCs and or HAPs, hazardous air products. So they have a negative impact on the environment. So one of the things that printers are expected to do is to take a look at the sources of those chemical emissions to the air and see if there are alternative products or technologies or other ways of doing things to reduce those emissions and thereby reduce the impact on the environment. Similarly, those same chemicals that you use will also have an impact on the health and safety of your employees. So looking at that exact same issue in a different way, facilities will determine that they have engineered their processes to ensure that there is acceptable indoor air quality for all the folks that work within the building. A few of the other things here are more generic. Chemical management more generally, looking at things such as, do any of the chemicals that you use have carcinogens in them or Prop 65 chemicals in them? And then how do you manage them? How much waste is generated and how is that waste handled? That all falls within the general bucket of chemical management. Printing industry generally is pretty good at chemical management. It's been an issue for decades. And so the chemicals that are now used generally are a lot less toxic and hazardous than it used to be, so it tends to come quite naturally to printers. On the other hand, solid waste management is kind of rising in importance within the industry now because of the concept of the circular economy. And I think most people are familiar enough to understand that going back a few years, 5 years ago maybe, a lot of the plastic waste in North America was simply shipped off-site to Asia. North America has not done a good job in dealing with managing its own plastic solid waste. So now that North America is really struggling to find ways to recycle plastics, which can be recycled, there just isn't the infrastructure in North America in many instances now. This is now an area of focus for a lot of businesses within printing and outside of printing too. So this is very definitely a part of the SGP process. Likewise, transportation management has really come to the forefront as well because of climate change, and which was heightened really in the COP26 with the global community coming somewhat towards a consensus that the planet needs to become carbon neutral by 2050, still a bit iffy, you know, who's on board with that, who isn't, but that's kind of where things are sitting at the moment. And what's that got to do with transportation? Well, at the moment, pretty much all of the transportation fleet, all the trucks burn fossil fuels. So it's very much a climate change issue. So that is, I think, very definitely we're on the cusp of a change in how we look at transportation and the type of transportation. And so that will be part of the SGP criteria and increasingly so as we go forward. Likewise, exact same issue with utilities and energy management. It's becoming a huge climate change issue. And how quickly, how well are we, everybody, as a society going to switch from fossil fuels to renewable energy? So lots of opportunity within solid waste management, transportation management, and energy management with SGP for facilities. Quite an exciting time. So the sustainability management system provides a structure, a framework for your facility to move forward with your sustainability program. So it utilizes the Sustainability Committee, as I've already mentioned, to guide and monitor your program. There are written procedures required for SGP, so those are internal policies and controls. The communication piece is key. That provides understanding and gains you support from the supply chain. The training element is there so that people know what they're expected to do to be able to achieve the goals that you're looking for. And then the evaluation that's built into the SMS includes things such as looking at your regulatory obligations, so environmental and safety audits. The management review is a high-level evaluation of your performance and facility. And then also you will do an internal audit of your sustainability system periodically on an annual basis so that you can take a deep dive and look and see, well, how well are we doing with all of these aspects of a program? So this SMS, the framework that it provides for you, allows you to adjust and repeat your activities on an annual basis, which is, of course, is the plan, do, check, act model of all sustainability management systems. So how do you incorporate SGP into your operations? So if you're just starting out and you're trying to figure all of this out, how do you do that? I've put together a few guiding principles here that are things that I kind of pass on to facilities when I chat with things. So one of the first steps is to have senior management come on board and declare that SGP is a priority and to set a clear goal for the organization. You need support from the top. Be prepared to incorporate the sustainability management system in every area of the business. I've seen two ways for SGP to be implemented. It's either things that people do every day and they think about in their day-to-day jobs, or they do their jobs and then at the end of the day, okay, what do we have to do for sustainability, the bolt-on kind of model. And the bolt-on model doesn't tend to work very well because when you get busy and when the pressure is on, that's the first thing that gets cut. And then over time, facilities tend to find that they've got behind in their sustainability goals. So integrate it into everyday operations and utilize existing business practices rather than create new ones. So I've mentioned several times requirements for communications. I'm quite sure that your business already communicates with suppliers and customers. So just piggyback sustainability messages into those existing business practices. Don't create new channels for those communication pieces. Likewise, with existing policies and procedures, if you already have policies in place, you can add on the sustainability piece to it, or you can make it standalone, but they should all complement each other at a business level. Some people are going to need authority to move forward with SGP. Again, this comes to the first point that senior management need to provide clear support. Sustainability programs won't run themselves. They have to be written into people's job positions to make sure that those people can do the things they need to do to make the SMS successful. And of course, employee training is key. If people don't know what's expected of them, then they're kind of struggling around in the dark, and they're not really focused on what they need to do and how they need to get there. So employee training is absolutely a key part of your sustainability management system. So those are my general comments for this session today. An overview of the system. And so I'd like to open it up to any questions from anything that I've covered or even about SGP generally.
Yes, please type in the chat feature. Usually it's in the upper right corner, and you can ask questions and I'll ask Wendy. Wendy, in the meantime, can you touch a little bit upon the supplier certification, because we do have some suppliers online, and also that the impact tracker, which I know we're going to have another webinar on that in May.
Absolutely. So initially, the first go around for SGP was for printing facilities. And as I've mentioned, always the supply chain has been included in sustainability. So as a later add-on, SGP has included a certification for suppliers. The certification criteria for suppliers is based on the printing certification. However, obviously some things don't apply to suppliers. So it has been customized to take out things that are specific to specific print technologies, for example, in the chemical management piece, because they wouldn't apply to suppliers. There may be some chemical management to them, so it's been made much more generic. So SGP as a program now includes both suppliers and printers with certification criteria that are tailored to each of those groups of people. SGP is just starting with supplier certifications. There are a couple in the pipeline, and one is scheduled for audit next month. So very much the supplier certification is a bit newer than the printer, but that's all part included in the SGP program now. The impact tracker, again, was a later development for SGP, and I was a bit slow, to be honest, to catch on to the benefits of the impact tracker. The impact tracker is an online portal where all applicants to SGP have access to a facility-specific site where they can upload documents that they've completed, so the required written procedures that describe their management system, for example, and for all of those activities that I talked about, those audits and assessments. And also on the SGP Impact Tracker, in all those locations where there is a document upload required, there is a template for facilities that they can download to choose if they wish. If they are not sure how to get started on, for example, a health and safety regulatory compliance audit, there is a template that a facility can download and customize for use at their facility. There is also embedded in that section a guidance document. So there's a template in that section and there's a guidance document. Again, how do I use this template? What is the expectation from SGP as to what I need to do to complete this regulatory compliance audit?
We have 3 questions came in already. How long does it take? How long does the document review usually take?
So in the pre-audit document review, the auditor will complete that. When I do them, it's done before the facility comes on site. And quite often there is feedback from that document review. There might be questions, there might be some assessments by the auditor that says, for example, your written procedure is missing something, it needs to be revised to add ABC. But that document review usually takes a few hours, maybe up to half a day by the auditor to collect evidence on that prior to coming on site.
How long does it take to get started once the application fees are submitted?
So once a facility has applied to the facility, so then they become an SGP applicant, they will be given access to the impact tracker. So within a few days, somebody within the organization, and you can have more than one individual with access to the impact tracker, A facility will have access to all of those templates and the guidance that I've mentioned. And then it really depends on the facility, how long it takes them to develop their SMS. I'm not sure what you mean by started, but once you've paid the fees and submitted the application, then you'll get access to the tracker within a couple of days after that.
Yes, I can confirm that because I'm the treasurer. I receive the fees. I contact Green to Sustainable very within a few hours, and then the company is contacted by someone at Green to Sustainable, which manages our impact tracker, and they then interact with the company to determine who has access and the logins and all that. So it happens pretty quickly.
And I provide support to all the facilities that are new applicants as well. I send a welcome email, so a new applicant will have my email address right away, and I can be used as a resource to answer questions in addition to what's on the impact tracker as well.
Next question, are there any SGP certified facilities that are not ISO certified?
I would say that the vast majority of SGP facilities are not ISO certified. There are definitely some that are, but I would say, I'm just going to pull a number out of thin air, at least 75% are not, which is partly why SGP developed the templates for each of the required criteria. When SGP started, there weren't templates for things. Facilities pretty much had to figure out themselves. When SGP said you need to do a regulatory compliance audit, it was up to the facility to determine what that meant and develop the format and so on. SGP got a lot of feedback saying, well, we don't know what to do, what's acceptable, what's the standard. And so slowly over time, SGP has developed the templates. If you're ISO certified and you are familiar with management systems, I don't think there would be that difficulty. ISO definitely doesn't provide templates for everything that you need to do. A lot of facilities hire consultants to help them implement ISO management systems, but SGP is intended to be for, well, it's not intended to be, it's designed to be user-friendly for facilities that do not have any experience of management systems, so I put it that way.
When using the templates, is it required that a facility answer all the questions, or can we add or remove some of them based on our workplace?
So the templates are generic. So it depends what your facility looks like. So for example, even in the health and safety audit, it might depend on where you're located. So very definitely a regulatory compliance audit in Canada will look different than in the US. So absolutely they are starting points and you can adapt them. You can't water them down and take out elements that you don't like to make it easier. You can't do that. But if they don't apply to your facility, so for example, on the health and safety regulatory compliance audit, if it talks about confined spaces, and you don't have any confined spaces in your facility, then absolutely you can take that out.
Are there any more questions? Just as Wendy alluded to this, we're doing United States and Canada facilities. We do have a multi-facility system. So if you have multiple locations, we can handle that as well. We have a number of companies doing that. And if you're interested in that, you can contact SGP. Any other final comments, Wendy?
This was a very, very brief overview, kind of a quick and dirty. So if you do have any more questions or things occur to you over the next few days, my brain tends to work that way. I always remember the questions that I want after the webinar or the seminar is closed off. So feel free to reach out. I'm not sure what contact information people have, Doreen. But well, certainly
they can use the SG program at sgppartnership.org is one. They can go to the website, the information's there. We have a new website up. If they have any questions regarding the cost, treasurer at SGP Partnership.
So there's lots of resources out there. Going forward, if you have more questions at any time. And as I said, this was very quick and dirty, so if you want more than that, then reach out, and we'd be happy to help you and provide whatever information you're looking for.
Okay, Well, with that, thank you, Wendy. Thank you, everybody, for attending. We are recording this, and we'll put it up on our website in the very near future so you can listen to it again. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you, everybody, for attending.
This conference will now be recorded.